Hare Krishna devotees, and welcome to today's class. We shall continue with chapter number 13, Nature, Enjoy, and the Consciousness. And we have already discussed the 6 questions which were asked by Arjuna in verse number 1 of chapter 13. Purush, Prakriti, Gyam, Jnanam, Kshetram, and Kshetragya. And we also discussed about the 5 sheets which cover the consciousness of an individual, or which are called Brahman Pancham Pratigya. So that means that 5 layers or 5 levels of realization of Brahman that were discussed yesterday's class: Annamay Kosh, Pranamay Kosh, thereafter Jnanmay, Vijnanmay, and ultimately the eternal bliss state, that is Anandamay Kosh. Now, Lord is going to give further explanation to other questions in the classes today. So, Mataji, you may start prayers today.
Yes, Prabhuji. Shri Guru Pranama. Om Ajanana Timirandhasya Janan Jana Salakya Chakshur Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Ve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sivyam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Sava Padantikam. Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajjatam Sahagana Raghunath Anvantamam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deva Gauravani Prakarine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschyata Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varsha Bhanavi Devi Daitanya Kripa Badhyay Krishna Sambandha Vijana Daine Prabhave Nama Madhuryo Jwala Premadhya Sri Rupanugua Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Saki Vigraya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaya Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudha Pasidhanta Dhvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kisorya Sakshad Veryagya Murtaya Viprambha Rasam Bhore Badam Bujhaya Te Namah Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sach Chid Ananda Namine Gaura Sakti Swarupya Rupunaga Varayate Gaura Virabhava Bhums Tvam Nirdeshta Saj Janapriyaha Vaishnava Sarvabha Bhuma Shri Jagannathaya Te Nama Vancha Kalaptaru Bhyasa Cha Kripa Sindhu Bhayaya Ivacha Patitanam Pavan Bhayu Vaishnava Bhayo Namo Nama.
Thank you, Mataji. Stop here. That is okay. So that is the prayer. We in fact chant selected verses from these. I'll make it out. Please note when I chant next time. So what we are chanting, you can just note the first few words, and please rest can follow that. We say Om Agyan Timirandhasya Gyananjan Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah. Om Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedant Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaurvani Pracharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Desha Tarni Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda He Krishna Karna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute. तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome to today's class. My first request to all of you is please join sharp at 7 o'clock. We are starting today's class at 7:50, which is not acceptable. In the spiritual field, discipline is the first thing. I always join at 6:50 and wait for you people to join, number one. But sometimes the other class, they end up a little bit late. So I join as soon as they finish up, maybe 6:50, 6:53, 6:55. Today they finished up 65 and I was there online at 6:55. And most of you have joined at 7:10. This is not acceptable. Please be punctual. We are here for a very noble cause, for our own self-elevation. So discipline becomes the first hallmark of our presentation. So thank you very much for joining anyway. So we have in these two sittings, we have covered, Arjuna had asked 5 questions, 6 questions from Lord Krishna, 2 P's, that is Prakriti and Purush, 2 J's, that is the Jnanam and the Geyam, and 2 K's, that is the Kshetra and the Kshetraki. And we discussed that there are 2 knowers and there are 2 fields, individual field and the field of all entities. There are 2 knowers, that's individual soul and the super soul. These are 2 knowers. And there are the Giyam, the object of knowledge is soul and super soul, and also body, or the field, which is called field of activity, that is Kshetra. And this is what is knowledge. Now Krishna is going to explain in these verses. In addition, we went through how the body is composed of, or the rather Brahman, Pucham, Tirtham. That is 5 levels of Brahman realization. And of course, before that, we also read that Brahman refers to Brahman, which is absolute truth also, or eternal absolute truth, ever existing, number one. Second is living entity, or the soul is also called Brahman. And third, the material nature of Prakriti is also called Brahman. So we must not confuse Brahman with the word Brahma. Lord Brahma is different. He is demigod, and and Brahman is eternal feature, which is present at 3 levels. And thereafter, 5 levels of Brahman realization. We Annamay, Jnanamay, Annamay, Pranamay, Jnanamay, Vijnanamay, and lastly, the Anandamay stages. So this part we have covered, and thereafter we came to learn this fact from Krishna book. Somebody was asking about Krishna book. You can see this is Krishna book. I think you can, all of you can you see this one? This is
Yes, Prabhu.
book.
Yes, Prabhuji.
This
Prabhuji.
is wonderful book. Each one must have all the pastimes right from the birth to the killing of demons and what happened in Dwarika when Krishna went there. Every episode, every story beautifully narrated, and some few inside facts are mentioned which we normally do not know, come across through other literature. So please do get this book. It is very, very useful. So now, after this much, these 5 courses, that is, we came to learn that Lord is Lord Lord Krishna has got 4th dimension. We are conscious, we are semi-conscious, or we are unconscious. There's 3 stages we have, but the Lord has 4th dimension. He appears, disappears at his own will. He is cause of all causes. Nothing existed before him, and he is primeval Lord, and also he is Adi Purush. Everything that is, that be, or that shall be has come out from him only through his external and internal potency. And we are, what kind of expression we are, the living entities are? There are two potencies which are called Antarang and Bahirang, and third is, what is that? Does anybody remember?
Tatastha.
Tatastha or marginal. That is, so we have got input of both internal potency and external potency. How we have interpotency? Because we have the soul and presence of super soul within us. So we are marginal. We are tatastha, neither antarang, but we are anu. Prabhu is Lord Krishna is Vibhu, and he is all pervading. Whereas we just read in this that we are knower of the field of activity of our own field only. Whereas Lord is like King who knows the field of activity of all the living entities. So this we have, and Lord manifests himself or appears, disappears at his own will. There is no cause for him, and he has assumed many forms that we have studied in the Dashavatara of Vishnu. Now, our Krishna book says, by your internal potency, that is Antaranga Shakti, you appear as the different incarnation of Vishnu, and by your external potency, you appear as the phenomenal world. Phenomenal world refers to Prakriti or the material world. So we start with this verse today, verse number 7. Yes, Mataji, anybody would like to read? Yes, Richa and Mataji, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. Ma bhutanyahangkaro buddhiravyaktamavacha indrani dashankam cha panyache chendriya gochara ichha dvesham sukham dukham sanghat shvet chetana dhrati etishetram samasena savikara muddahatam.
Translation.
The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions.
So now Krishna is answering the question, what is the body or the field of activity? The field of activity, we have already known that it is body. And what is the composition of body? Chemically, it is, the scientists or the philosophers know that it contains so many fluids, so many kind of cells, and so many kind of chemicals, and all those kind of things. But Lord Krishna here is telling that body is composed of 24 elements. And what are these elements? These are 5 great elements. What are the 5 great elements? Oh, Mahabhuta? Anyone? We have read it many
Earth, air, fire, ether, in space, I think.
Yeah, or ether. Earth, water, air, fire, and ether. So these are 5 great elements. And what are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses? 5 senses through which we acquire knowledge.
Eyes,
Yes.
ears, nose, mouth.
Yes. Tongue, we call it tongue. Mouth, tongue, and touch from the skin.
Yes, touch.
Yeah, so these are 5 knowledge acquiring. And what are 5 working senses? Working senses?
Hands, leg,
Yes.
and
Voice, we start with voice, hands, legs, genitals, and anus. So these are 5 working senses. We always start from the top, then you will remember these things. And what are 5 sense objects? What the sense organs feel, but the knowledge acquiring senses, that becomes a sense object. Sense objects are smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. Right from the top, right? So these are 5. So that makes up 5 knowledge acquiring, 5 sense working senses, 5 objects, and 5 great elements. That makes up 20 elements. Now there are 20. There are 3: mind, intelligence, and false ego. That makes 23. And fourth is pradhan or unmanifested state of three modes of material nature. Because it is in a subtle form unless it comes in contact with the material nature. So it is called pradhan also. And pradhan, that makes 24. So these 24 elements make up the human body. Is it okay? So that this is what is mentioned here. The 5 great elements, Mahabhut, false ego, intelligence, and mind, mind, intelligence, and false ego. The unmanifested, that is Pradhan, the 10 senses, and the 5 sense objects. Thereafter, what happens? Desire, hatred, happiness, distress, and the aggregate and life symptoms, and convictions, and so many other factors. These factors are the interactions or relationship related to 5 Mahabhuta. 5 Mahabhuta, when individual comes in contact with 5 Mahabhuta, then the desire, hatred, happiness, distress, aggregate, so many other symptoms they also take into consideration. So this is what the field of activity is composed of. One has to remember these 24 elements. Yes, Mataji, Richard.
Authoritative statements of the great sages, Vedic hymns, and Vedanta Sutra elaborate the components of this world. First, there are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the 5 great elements, Mahabhuta. Then there are false ego, intelligence, and the unmanifested stage of the 3 modes of nature. Then there are 5 senses for acquiring knowledge: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The 5 working senses: voice, legs, hands, anus, genitals. Then above the senses, there is the mind, which is within and which can be called the sense within. Including the mind, there are 11 senses altogether. Then there are 5 objects of the senses: smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. This aggregate of 24 elements is called the field of activity.
Field of activity or the body of living entity. Yes, Mataji, continue. We have discussed this one.
Yes, Prabhuji. Then there are 5 objects of the senses: smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. This aggregate of 24 elements is called the field of activity. Then there are desire, hatred, happiness, and distress, which are interactions, representations of the 5 great elements in the gross body. The living symptoms, represented by consciousness and convictions, are the manifestation of the subtle body, mind, ego, and intelligence. These subtle elements are included within the field of activity. 6 changes occur in the body. The body is born, it grows, it stays. It produces byproducts, then it begins to decay. And at the last stage, it vanishes. Therefore, the field is a non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetrayana, the knower of the field, its proprietor, is different.
Thank you, Mataji. So we can see here that field of activity is made up of 24 elements. And the most important element of every element is, of course, quite important, but most important element so far as living entity is concerned is pradhan, or the unmanifested state of 3 modes of material nature. When a person comes in contact with Prakriti or material nature, then that particular mode becomes prominent. And living entity, they are swinging between the mode of goodness to passion to ignorance in 24 hours or at any given point of time. The mode, but there is certain prominence feature of the mode. And during morning time, the mode of goodness is prominent. During daytime, the mode of passion is active, and during night time it is mode of ignorance. We know, all of us know, that in the morning time when we get up, we do our prayers and deity worship and Mahamantra japa. We are in a composed and equiposed state, and we are doing our worship. But as soon as day begins, we start on so many activities, tensions, anxieties, targets, goals have to be achieved, work is to be accomplished. So we become involved in the material activity, that is mode of passion. And during night time, we are in mode of ignorance. That means We are indolent, we feel sleep, sometimes crazy also. So that is how the unmanifested state of or the pradhan acts along when the person is bored or comes in contact with the material nature. So this discussion, would you like to continue, Mataji? Are you okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm fine. Yes.
Discussion in the part 6 and 7. Yes.
Purport.
This is summary, pictorial summary, so that understanding becomes easier. Yes, Mataji.
Central theme of the purport indicates that field or body is a non-permanent material thing, and the kshetrana or the knower of the field is different from the field.
So this body, which is made up of 24 elements, is different from the person, from Kshetragit, one who knows the field of activity. And who knows the field of activity? The soul knows, the individual soul knows about the field of activity. Take our own example. We have a soul inside, and the soul is watching us, motivating us to do many, many things in different mode at different times. It gets contaminated also. So soul is different from the body. The point is being highlighted is that soul is different from body. Body is material and subject to changes. 6 changes we have already studied. But the soul does not undergo any change because it's transcendental and part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Yes, Matri.
Components of the fields of activities. 5 great elements, 5 sense objects, 11 senses including mind, intelligence and false ego, unmanifested stage of 3 modes called pradhana, interactions of gross and subtle body, gross body desire, hatred, happiness, distress, subtle body, living symptoms represented by consciousness and convictions.
So we have got 2 bodies, in fact, gross body and subtle body. Mind, intelligence, and false ego, they make up subtle body. And the rest make up gross body. So gross body, when it comes in contact with this 5 Mahabhuta or 5 great elements, earth, water, fire, ether, then it develops hatred, happiness, distress, all those symptoms which were just, because they are part of the interactions or representation of interaction between the gross body and the Mahabhuta, Panch Mahabhuta. Subtle body has got higher functions, and these are consciousness. We are conscious. So this is because of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And also conviction. Convictions means when we come in contact with certain people or interact with certain persons, then we develop some kind of ideas. And those then initially we develop those ideas, but in later life, we live with those ideas. We live in those ideas. We live with those ideas. So that means we have some firm opinions. Convictions are nothing but firm opinions which have gradually developed over a period of time in our lifetime. In childhood, we might have some fancies for something. But when we grow up, that fancy might become our persistent thought, and that is conviction. Yes, Mataji, Pradhana.
Pradhana. 5 great elements are a gross representation of false ego, technically called as a materialistic conception or tamas buddhi, intelligence and ignorance, which represents unmanifested 3 modes called pradhana. Basis of this knowledge, authorities as per Bhagavad Gita 13.5 translation, 6 changes in the body, takes birth, grows, stays, byproducts, decay and death, vikaras.
Interaction.
Bhagavad 0.6 explains what the field of activities consist of. Bhagavad Gita 13.7 explains the transformation and the interactions of the FOA.
Thank you, Mataji. So the two verses we have covered, 6 and 7. 6 describes 24 elements, and verse 7 describes various type of interactions and representations that happen with the field of activity with the material nature. And the result we have seen that we develop certain kind of consciousness, the subtle body and gross body develop certain features which are mentioned here. But these are not exhaustive. There are many, many other features also besides hatred, happiness, distress, and so many things. So we move on to next section. That is section sheet 13.8 to 13.12. Krishna's further answer to question 5, the process of knowledge and liberation. Before we take up this section, I would like to mention a couple of things. First, what is the knowledge? And who is eligible to get this knowledge? And after attaining this knowledge, what happens? What we achieve? That is liberation. And the knowledge, basic knowledge is that body is different, the field of activity is different from the knower of the field of activity, or individual field, knower of the field of activity. That means an individual has got soul and the body, which is called field of activity, and those two are distinct and separate. And what are their features, how they interact with each other, and how they interact with the nature or material nature, that is going to be explained in further verses, these 5 verses. And ultimate, outcome of this knowledge is person gets liberated. But Lord Krishna says here that one who wants to attain this knowledge has to have certain qualities. Everybody cannot, atheists cannot have this knowledge. Atheists cannot, the philosophers, the scientists, or the Mayavadis or Brahmavadis, they cannot understand this knowledge, because Krishna says there are 20 qualities of saintly qualities, of sage-like qualities, which are essential for attaining this knowledge. And now he is giving this knowledge. What are those 20 elements which are essential for anybody to receive this knowledge? And these qualifications are given here as verse. Yes. Anybody else would like to read this?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah. Amanitvamadam mittvamahimsa shantirajapam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyamaatma vinigraha. All together, shall I read it?
Yeah, please continue, Mataji.
Okay.
Because they are in continuation. These are qualities, saintly qualities, which one must possess for attaining this knowledge or receiving this knowledge. And incidentally, Arjuna had all those 20 qualities, because he is a elevated soul and he is eternal associate of Lord Krishna. So please continue.
Okay. Indriyartheshu vairagya manahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam asaktiranabhikshvangah putradara gruhadishu nityam cha samachittatvam Mishthanishtopapatishu Maichananya yogena bhaktiravyabhicharini vivikta desha sevittvamaratirja na samsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etajnanamite prokta Magnanam yadato nyatha.
It's translation. These 5
Translation.
verses, 13.8 to 12. 5 verses put together, and the meaning is also continuous. Yes, but
Okay.
these are the saintly qualities given in English translation of the Sanskrit verse. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ainsa shantir arjavam. Yes, Mataji.
Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Bhagavad Gita 13, 8 to 12.
Thank you.
Hare
very much.
Krishna Prabhuji,
So,
Dhanyavad.
Important points, highlighted points in these 5 verses are: first thing, all these I declare to be knowledge. Earlier, Krishna had said, that is my opinion. Then he supported his opinion with evidences from Parashar Muni, Vedvyas, and so many other Taittiriya Upanishad, so many Shvetashvara Upanishad. Lord supported what he said, and ultimately he proved that what he was saying is the correct thing. Now that is the quality of a spiritual master. First is, now what here is he is saying emphatically that all these I declare to be knowledge. And how this knowledge can be attained? Knowledge can be attained through only spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, by following his instructions and guidelines, and also doing devotional service to Lord Krishna and service to the spiritual master. So this is how knowledge can be attained. Without service to spiritual master, or without having a bona fide spiritual master who has come from disciplic succession, real knowledge cannot be attained. Because this bona fide spiritual master is Tattvadarshi. He has seen the truth. He knows the truth, because he has received from his spiritual master, who was again in disciplic succession. So these 2 words are very important. And third phrase, which is very important, Mai cha ananya yogena. You can see this is 9th from the bottom. Mai cha ananya yogena. That is unalloyed devotional service to Lord, or to me. Lord here says, and unalloyed devotion to me. So how can this knowledge can be attained? By having a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master. Second, having rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna. Then this, and these are saintly qualities. Unless a demon cannot attain this knowledge, an atheist cannot attain this knowledge, a philosopher or scientist, because he does not have faith. So how can one assess? So these are beautiful. In fact, first is the humility. Why humility is? If one wants to progress in the spiritual field, then one must become very humble. And then second, the quality which is mentioned here is pridelessness. The first is amanitvam. That is aman. That is becoming very, very humble, and also become prideless. Adam is pridelessness, and amanitvam is being very humble. Ahimsa, non-violence, shanti, peace. Arjavam means simplicity, being very, very, there should be no duplicity or kind of, dual behavior. Then acharyo pasanam, that is, acharyo pasanam is serving the bona fide spiritual master. So these are in order of the importance Lord Krishna said. Saucham means purity or cleanliness. Sthairyam atma vinigraha. Sthairyam means steadiness. One is steady. That is determined to progress in the spiritual life. One is steadily progressing. That it is not like that today I could not do japam with full concentration, so tomorrow I will not do it. It is a futile exercise. So one has to be steady. Then Atma Vinigraha, that means self-control. One has to control himself. Indriyas, Indriyarthesu Vairagyam. Indriyarthesu Vairagyam means renunciation of objects of sense gratification. One should not indulge in self-sense gratification. Then Anahankara evacha. Anahankara means no false ego. False ego, all of us have false ego because we identify ourselves with our body, not with that we are soul. Jan Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. 4 changes that take place in the body. All of us know that there is birth, Mrityu, there is death. Jara means disease, and Jara means old age, and ultimately Vyadhi. And Dukh Doshanu Darshanam. Dukh Doshanu Darshanam means that these Jan Mrityu, Jara Vyadhi, Dukh Doshanu Darshanam, because these 4 stages of life give rise to so many kind of miseries. We suffer from such kind of many miseries during this. Asaktir Anabhishangha. Asaktir means detachment. Asaktir means without any. Asakti is attachment, and asaktir, that means detachment. Avishan means that is freedom from entanglement with the putra dara gradasu. That is, there has to be some kind of detachment or freedom from entangled with wife, children, home, and all the other property which one possesses. So these are the qualities which are required for attaining this knowledge. Thereafter comes Nit Putra Dara Gradasu. Nityam cha sam chitutam. Nityam cha sam chitutam. That means a state of even-mindedness. That is, one remains constantly unaffected by the dualities of life. That is, something wrong or good or bad happens, but one does not get affected or moved by those things. So, Nityam cha sam Stanisto Papa Patisto. That is constant and unalloyed devotion. Then Saristo is that even minded and amid pleasant and unpleasant. That is a continuation. Nityam chasam chittutam stanisto papa tishu. That is same thing, that one should not remain too much attached or entangled with the, and they should. Then mai cha ananya yogina. That means unalloyed devotional service to me. But this is very important, and this quality is very important for devotees. Now, out of these qualities, 18 qualities of these mentioned by Lord Krishna, they are for jnanis. But 2 qualities are specifically for devotees. And this quality number 16, this is 16, Mai cha ananya yogena. That means undevotional devotions. Yet this is meant for devotees only. Because we know that jnanis, they are meditating on Brahman effulgence. They are not worshipping Lord. They want to merge into them. They don't want any kind of relationship with Lord. So, but here, Mai cha ananya yogena, that means unalloyed devotional service to me. Bhaktir abhivacharani, that is the meaning. Vivikta desh sevitvam, that means secluded. Vivikta means separate living. That is going to a secluded place and doing meditation or and also living in the devotees association. Vivikta means secluded living, and also desha sevitam. Aratir jan samsadi, that is the combination, that is living in secluded place or in the company of association of devotees. So this is second quality which is common for devotees only. So out of 20, as I mentioned, these 2 qualities, association of devotees, and also ananya yogena, that is quality for reserved for devotees, that the rest qualities are. So these are 20 qualities which are mentioned, and detachment from general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for absolute truth. This quality number 19 and 20. Etas jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ato anyatha. These are 2 qualities which are exclusively for jnanis only, because they are in search of absolute truth, and they want to also have self-realization. Self-realization is common for jnanis as well as devotees, because both of them are searching for self-realization. So Lord declares that these 20 qualities are essential for attaining this knowledge. That, yes, Mataji. Just read, please read. I will not explain, because here these are English translation of the Sanskrit words which we have just.
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Process of knowledge, humility beyond honor and dishonor, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, cleanliness, steadiness to make progress in spiritual life, self-control, false ego, understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment from children, wife, and home, devotional service to Krishna without deviation, live in a solitary place without unwanted association.
So this is the table which are the words given in English. Sanskrit, we have already translation in English, and English words are now translated into what is mentioned. So first we can see humility, pridelessness. They are the beginning, stepping stones in the, if one wants to have this knowledge or the real knowledge about the body. So without, and third is non-violence. Fourth is the importance of accepting a spiritual master. Now, each one of you, when you receive this presentation in your, you can access this presentation. So when it is uploaded on YouTube, then you can categorize as per your own liking or your preference these. But Lord Krishna has said humility is the first criteria, pridelessness is second criteria. But I think humility and pridelessness is, of course, remaining one and two. But next is accepting a spiritual master, because a spiritual master is capable of guiding us through all these remaining 17 qualities. But one has to approach spiritual master with humility, with pridelessness. You can't be in a pariprasthena, that the shloka that one has to be submissive and serve the spiritual master and would politely ask spiritual queries. So then only one can learn this knowledge, or can really get knowledge from the spiritual master. So these are qualities which are essential. Given detailed meaning of each one is given here, and no entanglement with wife, children, family, which is mentioned here, should practice if you can do it in a Krishna conscious way, but renounce if unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. The meaning, the idea here is that you don't leave your wife, children, home and family and then go to a secluded place. Idea is that all the family members, if they are Krishna conscious and they are also hankering for attaining this knowledge which Krishna wants to give us, then one can live with the family also. Then, but there is no need to leave family and leave all, get detached from all them and go to a secluded place. This only I wanted to highlight. Yes, Mataji.
Yes. Process of knowledge, Bhagavad Gita 13, 8 to 12. Cultivation of these qualities mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 13.8 to 12 is the real method of acquiring knowledge. Anything speculated beyond these items of knowledge is ignorance. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So we have seen that Lord says that what 20 points I have told you, this is knowledge, and all the rest is ignorance. So these items, 20 items, are only knowledge. So when Krishna says something, we have to accept it as such, because he's the supreme spiritual master. And sadhu, shastra, and spiritual master, they never tell lies. They always have to be respected and followed also. Thank you, Mataji. So yes, anybody else would like to read now? Riya Mataji, I made you co-host.
Yes.
Please take up this section. 13 to 13, 19.
Krishna answers question 6, the object of knowledge. The soul can know the super soul, who is the object of knowledge and who exists everywhere and pervades everything. The super soul has transcendental senses, and he is the source of all our senses. He is unattached and he maintains all living entities. Only the devotee can understand the field of activities, the body, the process of knowledge, and both the soul and the super soul. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So 13 to 18 says, soul can know the super soul. Individuals, we are individuals. We have individual field of activity. We have individual soul. The soul is located very close to the super soul. which is also present in the heart. Both are present in the heart. One is Anu, a very, very small part, and the other is Vibhu, which is transcendental and which is all over present. Both are transcendental, but the soul, individual soul, is subject to material contamination, but the super soul is transcendental. It is never under control of any three modes of material nature. It is beyond it because it is the master, Rishikesha. Paramatma is Rishikesha. So what are the objects of knowledge? The three objects of knowledge are number one is field of activity. We have already seen how the body is composed of, what kind of changes it undergoes, and how a person attains or obtains certain kind of form of life or form of body. We have already studied in earlier section. So now what is Giyam? The object of knowledge is the soul and super soul. The relationship between them and the characteristics of both of them, this is going to be dealt with in this section. Only devotees can understand the field of activities, process of knowledge, and both the soul and soul. So there are four elements in verse number 19. That is, emphasis is on devotees. The Mayavadis, the Brahmavadis, or the philosophers, or the speculators, or atheists, or people of demonic nature, they cannot understand this knowledge. And what is this knowledge? What is field of activity? What is the soul? And what is the super soul? Yes, Mataji. Yes, so this is a pictorial. Object of knowledge is Geya, super soul and soul. Field of activity, Lord Krishna has already mentioned. So individual soul, you can see this is a sage sitting here in meditation. The bright spark you can see is that of individual soul, and Supreme Personality of Godhead is standing here in the form of Chaturbhuj Vishnu, that is super soul, or the Paramatma form. You can see the picture of individual is here, and this is super soul, or Vishnu, or Vishnu form of Paramatma. Yes, Mataji. It is 13.13. No?
Geyam, okay. Geyam, Geyam yat tat prabhat shami yaj
Yad gyatva
param brahma
amratam
na sat na sat tan nasat usyate. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world.
So, in this verse 13.13, what happens by knowing this, or by this attaining this knowledge, one becomes liberated. Amritam, Jnanatva Amritam Asnute. That means one gets the liberation from this knowledge. Yes, Mataji. This is the same translation which you read. Please read it again.
I shall now explain the knowledge, knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world.
Thank you. So, would anybody like to say who are three Brahmans, features which exist? Three aspects of Brahman we discussed just now. Anyone who has not participated so far? Pratibha Mataji, Sheila Mataji. The three Brahmans I just now talked about. Realization of Brahman.
Bhagwan realization.
Brahman realization. First is absolute truth in the form of Brahman effulgence. Second is living entity. And third is material nature. Now, there is a saying, Lord Krishna says that nobody knows. They are anadi. When they first existed, nobody knows about it. When did the living entity first living entity came into existence? Nobody knows it. So living entity, that is why he is called as Brahman, because it is anadi. It is also eternal. The second eternal is soul. Soul, when it first came into existence, nobody knows it. There is no record, there is no documentation. So soul is also called as Brahman. And third is material nature or the Prakriti, how it came into existence. When did Krishna, out of his external potential or Bahiranga Shakti, gave, manifested this material nature? This is not known. But Lord says that they are all subordinate to it. What all the three aspects of Brahman, they are under my subordination. There is only one Purush, and that is Krishna. There is only one enjoyer, he is supreme enjoyer, and others are all just servants. They are servitors to Lord Supreme Will. They are not proprietor, and they don't own anything. Whatever they have belongs to Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna says that I am beyond the cause and effect because he is transcendental. He is not affected by anything. He is not affected, touched by three modes of material nature. So this is 13.33. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Now he begins to explain the knowable, first the soul and the super soul. The living entity is eternal. There is no specific date at which the Jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of the Jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is beginningless. The Vedic literature confirms this. Na jayate mriyate va vipashit. The knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he is full of knowledge. The Supreme Lord, as a super soul, is the Pradhana Kshetrajna Patir Gunesha, the chief knower of the body and the master of the three modes of material nature. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. So this is what we just now discussed, that nobody knows when first living entity came into existence. Nobody knows when first soul came into the body of the first living entity. And that is why they are called Anadi, that is beginningless. And there's Na Jayati Mriyati Vap Vipaschit. Katha Upanishad says that knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he's full of knowledge. Because it is, Lord has said that he changes the soul simply keeps on changing dress, like human being change dress. So the body is changed. So that is why na jayati mriyati chavipaschita. That means it is never born, never dies. It is just changing form, life forms or body forms only. And it is in full form, full knowledge, because individual soul is a knower. And Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Knower. Yes, Mataji. In this Smriti.
Okay. In the Smriti, it is said, Dasa Bhuto Harer Eva Danyas Cheva Kadachana. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings. Living entity is Vijnana Brahma. Super soul is Ananda Brahma. Hare Krishna.
Das Bhuto Harer Ev Nanya Seva Kadachana. The living entities are eternally in the service of Supreme Lord. This is mentioned in the Smriti, and Lord Chaitanya also says in teaching that we are eternal servitor of Lord Krishna. They are Vijnana Brahma. Super soul is Ananda Brahma. We know that the 5 layers of our consciousness, or 5 levels of our consciousness, the innermost is Anandamaya, but that is super soul, because super soul is always in transcendental bliss state. It is not affected by anything, and out of this bliss, he, for enjoyment, for his own enjoyment, Lord Krishna or the super soul of Paramatma created this material nature. But we consider that we are the owner, we are the master of this material nature, and we start getting contaminated by this thought. And living entities, Vijnana Brahma. What is the label of Vijnana Brahma? What are the realizations? What type of consciousness exists up to Vijnana Brahma? I discussed yesterday food consciousness, then prana consciousness, life force. What is third? not work. Third was mind, feeling, willing, and thinking. Fourth was soul. And fifth was super soul, that is Anandamaya. So living entity is Vijnanmaya, that knows that living entity is a body and soul. And body is different from the soul. That is the Vijnan, that is the knowledge which we have at the Vijnanmaya level. And at the Anandamaya level, we know that it is super soul who is always ever blissful and transcendental situated. Please do not forget so easily everything. Yes, Mataji.
Nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. Jnanam, knowable, soul, and super soul are the real objects to be known. The verse Arjuna answers Arjuna's sixth question, Jnayam. Soul and super soul are the real objects to be known. Bhagavad Gita 13.13 describes the first object of knowledge, that is the soul, living entity. Who are the knowable
Objects of knowledge. Yeah. These are four
objects of knowledge. Yeah. Vijnana Brahma, living entity as the knowable. Ananda Brahma, super soul as the knowable and knower. What are the benefits of knowing the knowable? Benefits of knowing the knowable is one can relish the nectar of life.
Yes. We have already discussed. We'll move on next. Yes, next verse. 14. Yes, Mataji.
Sarvata Pani
Just a
Padam
minute,
Tat.
just a minute, Mataji. Just a minute, just a second.
Okay.
Now, in verse number 14, Lord is describing the properties or the qualities of super soul. So far, we have talked so much about soul, but let us now listen what Lord is saying about super soul, and then he will tell about quality of soul and compare it with soul. Yes, Mataji. Sarvataha Pani Padam.
Sarvataha Pani Padam Tat Sarvato Shri Shiro Mukham Sarvata Shrutimal Loke Sharvam Abritya Tishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. Hare Krishna.
Yes, this is very interesting. Super soul has many hands, many legs, many eyes, heads, faces, ears, eyes, everything. So it is pervading everywhere. What it really means? What is our comprehension about this translation? Any idea? Anybody would like to try?
Prabhuji, since the Lord actually resides in every living entity, so counting the hands and legs of all the living entities, this is how it is. Matlab, he knows everything. Ultimately, it may be implying that he is the knower of all the things.
That's very nice. So in fact, as Mataji said, that Lord resides in every heart of every living entity in the form of super soul. Now, all the living, these living entities are pervading in the, they are distributed in the entire universe, everywhere. So the Lord is everywhere, and that means Lord has eyes, he can see. Lord has ears, he can listen. Lord has legs, he can walk. Lord has hands, he can work. So and he can hear ears, he can hear everything because in the form of super soul, Lord is present everywhere and in the form of living entities. So that is why. But what about the individual soul, Mataji? Your explanation was very nice. But what about the individual? What limitation individual soul has got as compared to Paramatma, form of super soul?
The individual soul is knowing about the self. He's not knowing about others or the other people. He's knowing about the inner soul, the soul only. And in fact, a devotee can know the soul and the super soul. A normal person cannot know that also.
Yeah, very nice, Mataji. But There, that is one reference. Second reference here is super soul has got many hands and legs, eyes, heads and faces and ears. What about individual soul?
2 eyes, two
Yes.
two
Yes.
ears,
So
one
there
head,
is
one
a limitation. Thank you, Mataji. That is the point I wanted you to say. So the super soul is pervading entire universe, right? And soul is individual soul. In the individual, farmer knows about his own field of activity or the kshetram only, whereas the Supreme Lord knows about the field of activities of all living entities. And how does he know? Because he has got multiple hands, innumerable hands, legs, eyes, feet, and all those things. So this is the purpose. Yes, Mataji, continue.
Like the sun diffusing its unlimited rays, the supersoul or supreme personality of Godhead also is all-pervading. All the individual living entities, beginning from the first great teacher, Brahma, down to the small ants exist in him. There are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and unlimited living entities. All are existing in and on the supersoul. The individual soul does not have his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. The Supreme Lord can extend his hand without limit. The individual soul cannot. The Lord says that if anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it.
Sorry. Lord says, yes, please.
If anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it. If the Lord is a far distance away, how can he accept things?
So this is the logic given here. What is the shloka? Does anybody remember? If anyone offers him a flower, a fruit, or a water, or a leaf.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam
Yome bhaktya prayakshati.
prayachati tada bhakti uparitam ashnami prayatatmana.
Thank you, Mataji. So now we are here. Lord says that I can accept anything from you if you offer me a leaf or flower or a fruit or water. So if he was limited in Goloka Vrindavan, he was not present here in our in our altar or in our puja place, then how can he accept it? So this logic says that if we Patram Pushpam Phalam Tum, as Mata said, if we offer with love and devotion, that is the condition. If we offer him these even minor things, which even anybody can afford to have a flower or a water. So Lord is so merciful that he is present in our heart as Paramatma. He is present in our in arch vigraha form in our puja sthal or say, altar. So because he is pervading everywhere, because he has got multiple mouths to accept it, multiple hands to accept it. So this is the analogy given here. Anybody, Srila Mataji, please read. You have been not reading anything since long. Are you there, Srila Mataji? Or please unmute yourself. I don't think she can. Pratibha Mataji, would you like to read?
Omnipotence of the Lord, even though he is situated in his own abode, far, far away from earth, he can extend his hand to accept anyone's offers. In the Brahma Samhita 5.37, it is stated, Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhutaha. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet, he is all pervading. The individual soul cannot claim that he is all pervading. Therefore, this verse describes the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead, not the individual soul.
So this is the comparison or differences between soul and super soul. Yes, Mataji, you can. Super soul is all pervading. This verse answers Arjuna's sixth question: what is Gayam? How to know? And Gayam, as I mentioned, is soul and super soul. And what is the difference between the two? That is also mentioned in verse number 14 and 13 also. Super soul is all pervading. Srila Prabhupada strongly confirms that this verse describes the super soul, not living entity. In fact, living entity is a composite thing, is a complex thing. Living entity has got soul, super soul, and a field of activity or kshetra or a body. But this verse 14 is describing only about this super soul or the Paramatma form, presence of Lord. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Sarvendriya gunabhasham Sarvendriya vivarjitam Asaktam sarvabhrich nirgunaha gunabhoktacha. The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all modes of material nature. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So this is Achint Veda Ved. Super soul is original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. Why? This is a contradiction, apparent contradiction, not really contradiction, because Krishna is the source of all senses that we possess. Like he is the master controller of senses. So, but he is not under control of those senses. So he is without senses. He is unattached. In fact, he is present in the heart of everybody. He is Anumanta, he is Anudrashta, he is overseer, quite observer of what soul wants to do, or the senses of mind or intelligence wants to do, or what the living entity wants to do. So but he's not unattached. He is not attached. Although he is the maintainer of all living beings, he transcends the modes of nature because he is not affected. He is beyond. He is the creator of three modes of material nature, and the creator. The analogy, I think all of you will remember, analogy is given that the king creates certain rules and regulations and policies and procedures for his subjects for running his state. But he is not subject to those rules and regulations because he is the creator. He is beyond those his creation. Lord Krishna is the creator. So he is beyond that influence of his creation. And at the same time, he is a master for modes of material nature. He is the Rishikesha because he controls our senses. So he is senseless, yet he controls our senses because he is the creator or the source of our senses. So this is Achint Veda Abhida, which is perplexing, but which devotees understand. The Mayavadis, the atheist or the people of demoniac nature, they do not understand. Yes, Mataji. We'll close after this. Yes, Mataji.
The Supreme Lord, although the source of all senses of the living entities, doesn't have material senses like they have. Actually, the individual souls have spiritual senses, but in the conditioned life, they are covered with the material elements, and therefore the sense activities are exhibited through matter. The Supreme Lord's senses are not so covered. His senses are transcendental and are therefore called nirguna. Guna means the material modes, but his senses are without material covering. His senses are not like ours. They are transcendental, uncontaminated. Shvetashwar Upanishad 3.19 in the verse Apani Pado Javano Grahita, the Lord with his uncontaminated hands accepts all sacrifices offered.
So very important, thank you, Mataji. So very important declarations are made here. The individual soul is spiritual, has got spiritual senses, but what our senses are, when they come in contact with material mode, three modes of material nature or material nature, they become contaminated. The Lord is creator of material nature. So he is not, he is transcendental to this material nature, and he is not, he doesn't get contaminated. And that is why he is called Nirguna. That is Nirguna. Nirguna means without any qualities, attributes. But Nirguna, if we remember that we remember Krishna in four forms: the name, form, attributes. Attributes are guna and the pastimes. So Lord has got guna, but the guna here refers to the senses which have got contaminated by three modes of material nature, they develop certain kind of tendencies or modes, and these modes become the Buddha. But Lord does not develop this kind of contamination, so he is called Nirguna here. And then so that means our senses are also spiritual, but because of contamination, they are not transcendental, but Lord's senses are transcendental. And second, the important this Upanishad that apani pado javano grahita, the Lord which is uncontaminated hands accepts all sacrifices offered. We know that Lord is the Yajna Purush, Lord in the form of Vishnu, four-armed form Lord Krishna. They are Yajna Purush. He accepts all kind of oblations, all kind of mantras, all kind of items offered to the sacrificial fire, and he is the ultimate enjoyer of that yajna. So how does he accept? With uncontaminated hands, because his hands are not contaminated with three modes of material nature. Our hands, when we even making oblations to this sacrificial fire, they are contaminated because we are material. So yes, Mataji, this one also, these are some text. He has no materialized. Further qualities of Lord Krishna or Paramatma form of.
He has no material eyes, but with his transcendental eyes, he sees everything, past, present, and future. He lives within the heart of the living being, and he knows what we have done in the past and what we are doing now and what is awaiting us in the future. He knows everything, but no one knows him. The Supreme Lord with his spiritual legs travels throughout space. So the Lord cannot be impersonal. He has his eyes, legs, hands, and everything else. And because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we also have these things. But his hands, legs, eyes, and senses are not contaminated by material nature. Hare Krishna.
So this is the extension of what we learned in the previous verse, that that is verse number 15, that he is transcendental, he is present everywhere, and in fact, he knows everything. He has got spiritual legs, he is present multiple legs, mouth, eye, ear, everything, and hands. And because he is present in each heart, each living entity's heart as super soul, so that is how he is omnipresent. This is last one, this last explanation, then we will stop here. When the Lord appears, he appears as his spirit. Yes.
When the Lord appears, he appears as he is by his internal potency. He is not contaminated by the material energy because he is the Lord of material energy. His whole embodiment is spiritual, called Satchidananda Vigraha. He is full of all opulence. He is the proprietor of all wealth and the owner of all energy. He is the most intelligent and is full of knowledge. These are some of the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the maintainer of all living entities and witness of all activity. The Supreme Lord is always transcendental with spiritual head, face, hands, and legs, revealed only in our transcended situation. Materially contaminated senses cannot see his form. Hare Krishna.
So basically, what is being said here are all the qualities of super soul, because super soul is a transcendental expansion of Lord Krishna or the Vibhu form, and which is present in our heart. So Lord is beyond comprehension. Nobody can understand him. And the Lord has already declared in chapter number 2, Krishna told Arjuna that you remember, you do not remember your past life, but we had been together for many lives. I remember the past, present, and future of each and every living entity, but you are contaminated by three modes of material nature, so you do not know him. So this fact is again being stated in chapter number 13, that he is He is knower of everything, but nobody knows him. This is Achintya. Ved again here, apparent contradiction here. So we'll stop here. We have covered 15 verses only. My request to all of you is, Mataji and Prabhuji, that please join sharp at 7 o'clock. I don't want to extend beyond the scheduled time. That is reflects badly on all of us. Any doubts or questions? Very quick. If anybody would like to say something, add something or correct something, please fill in the attendance form. I posted it in the chat box many times. I'm doing it again now. So we'll close here. Panchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhare patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Kot Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam to all devotees present in the class, and thank you for your association today, this evening. Thank you. Hare Krishna, devotees.